happened, I didn't really start to feel the full effects until after intermission, and then I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me set the scene here, okay? It's gonna require a little background, so bear with me. I mean, really, bear with me, okay? If at any point it seems I'm rambling or long-winded, just tell yourself or nudge each other and say, well, bless her heart, her head blew up. A brain hemorrhage is a type of stroke that occurs when an artery in the brain bursts. The bleeding then starts to kill brain cells. A brain hemorrhage, if survived, flips a person's life upside down, and the rest of it is spent trying to flip it right side up. Watch Your Head by Lynda Rodriguez. So it I've been referring to. I like to call it that time my head blew up. Not overly snappy, but it's either that or I spent 4 years in New Mexico and all I got was this lousy brain hemorrhage. So we're coming out of the hospital. And my head starts to hurt terribly, and I'm still performing. I don't know what I'm saying, but we go on. Because I don't know how to stop. I remember the director shouting at me, which wasn't unusual for that jerk, but unexpected in front of an audience. And then I heard him tell the crowd that the show was canceled. What? And then we went to the hospital, and I couldn't use my left hand. My time at the hospital is remembered, if at all, in flashes, like snapshots. For example, as appreciative as I am to the staff of the ER, why do they ask questions if they aren't going to listen? My favorite is the medical history drill. Is there a chance you could be pregnant? Not without a miracle. And then there's a CT scan. I told them I was claustrophobic, I told them. Yet they were surprised and angry when they had to pull me out and sedate me. And let me add that sedated does not equal death, or unconscious, or oblivious, or stupid. Just because someone lies at the brink of becoming a human-sized can of V8 juice doesn't mean they're not there. They are. Other moments still stand out in vivid technicolor, such as the exorcist who came to administer the last rites. And the realization that a week into this picnic, I still had stage makeup kicked all over my face, that SpongeBob SquarePants is infinitely more enjoyable on morphine, and that if anyone ever comes your way using the phrase blended diet, get the hell out of there. That in moments, it felt like this was all part of a big ruse. Like I was in some episode of Punk'd. There was this therapist who asked me to examine a photograph and identify the 5 things wrong with it. I told her I couldn't. And when she asked why, I said because there are 6. She was unamused. But unsurprisingly, this was the same young woman who one day peered at me over her clipboard and asked if my parents were still Hispanic. Around this time, I began to hear many of the personnel refer to me as high functioning. That's great, I longed to shout. I have 2 master's degrees and I'm still not deaf! I decided, however, this would be impolitic and kept my mouth shut. I soon deduced that much of the nurses' chatter, it was just coded conversation for, isn't there some other hospital that can take a crack at this vile, overeducated witch? Post-brain trauma therapy. It only sounds like a self-important rock band. It is actually an avenue of treatment designed to make a given patient functional. And since I was regarded as high functioning, I was told the focus would be on assessment. Lots of assessment. In other words, they wanted to determine exactly what sort of disabled, overeducated vegetable I was going to be. But then came the day I was cleared outpatient. Now, being an outpatient is rather like being on parole. Your tether is short, your circumstances are definitely limited, and lots of people have their eye on you. Still, I was free, and it was only now that I realized how fiercely determined I was to recover, and that made all the difference. Now, outpatient therapy offered its own brand of hilarity, of course. They were having me do this response time test, which they reminded me would determine my future as a driver. And I was to stare dutifully at the screen and pound the space bar each time I saw the letter E. Now, I remarked that I have driven for years and never, ever seen a giant E lunge into oncoming traffic. They were not amused. I like to look back on that period and think I was pretty stoic. But one afternoon, after an especially rigorous battery of tests designed to improve my processing speed, I lost it. I really did. I was trying to assemble these blocks in a prescribed pattern, and I could see it in my head, but I couldn't make my hands do the work. And so meltdown. I was sobbing all over those damn blocks. And the therapist, she was great. She spoke softly and she said, "Did anyone ever tell you exactly what happened? Did they tell you?" And of course, no one had. They told me I'd be all right. After they told me I wouldn't live through it. They told me not to mind someone taking me to the bathroom or feeding me liquid pie. They told me that there was no substitute for hard work, but not to be too hard on myself. They told me that they needed to take just a few more tests and that sarcasm had no place in the therapeutic process. They told me I was doing great, I need to work harder, that I'd be good as new, that I'd have to accept my limitations. Then they told me that they needed to take just one more test, just one more time, just give it one more shot. And then they told me not to cry. But no one had ever explained what the hell went on in my head. When my head blew up, what really happened. Well, this therapist with the soft voice and the soft hands did. And it occurred to me that I should quit crying and become aware. Make myself aware of just how lucky I was to be walking and talking and to have enough cognitive power to cry and get so upset because I could realize what my stumbling blocks were. That was just the distance I'd traveled so far. So far. I've even reached the point of being philosophical about the way I left that bewildered crowd back in New Mexico. And honestly, as strange and unnerving and troubling as that night must have been for them, it really wasn't even the stupidest thing I've been a part of on a stage. That would require a musical